Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see the summary of Oedipus Rex by Sophocles. Oedipus Rex. Rex means king. So, Oedipus the king is actually a tragedy written by the ancient Greek playwright Sophocles. It was first performed in about 429 BC, and this comes as a second place among the other three plays which he had produced. But in the internal chronology, it comes first. And what are the other two plays are Oedipus at Colonus and Antigone. Now we will see the summary of Oedipus Rex. Now Oedipus is the king of Thebes, and the play starts when Thebes is attacked by a plague. So Oedipus sends his brother-in-law Creon, brother-in-law means his wife's brother Creon, to the oracle at Delphi so that he will know how to help the city and save it from plague. And Creon comes back and says that he came to know that the plague will come to an end only when the murder of Laius. And who is this Laius? He was the former king of Thebes. That is, before Oedipus could come and become the king of this place, Laius was the king of Thebes. And unless this murder of Laius is caught and expelled from that place, the plague will not leave the city. And he also says that the murderer is still within the city only. Hearing all this, Oedipus asks Creon to tell about how Laius died, and Creon tells him that Laius was killed by thieves on his way when he went to consult an oracle, because at that time a phoenix was there, and that sphinx was not allowing anyone to go anywhere or do anything, and she had the full control of the city in her hand. So in order to escape from her, he wanted to know what to do, so he went to the oracle, but on the way he was murdered by a gang of thieves, and only one person escaped alive, and he came and informed them that Laius is dead. Hearing this, Oedipus gets very angry and he promises to drive that murderer out, and he also curses the murderer. And to know further about it, they send for Tiresias. Now this Tiresias is a blind prophet, like he is said to be blind, but actually he can even see the past and future in his internal eye. He has that power of vision, and he is a prophet. And when Tiresias come, and when Oedipus asks him to tell him who the murderer of Laius is, he says that he will not tell the truth because the truth will only bring pain to him. Now Oedipus curses him, and he says maybe Tiresias is the murderer of Laius, that's only he does not want to tell that. So Tiresias reveals the truth, and he says that Oedipus is the actual murderer of Laius. Hearing this, Oedipus gets angry and accuses Creon and Tiresias and says that they are unnecessarily blaming him, and maybe Creon wants to become the next king, and Tiresias must be mad. And what happens is, he also asks Tiresias if he has so much of power, why he never saved the city when it was attacked by plague once before. For this, Tiresias says that time a phoenix was holding the city in her captive and refused to leave until someone answered her riddle. Hearing this, Oedipus proudly says that he was the only person who was able to solve the puzzle, and that is why he, as a reward, he was given Thebes, and he is ruling that now. Not only that, he also got married to Jocasta, who was Laius' wife, but after coming to know that Laius is dead, and since now Oedipus is the king, she became his queen, and they are very happily married, and they have 4 children now. Now to prove that his skill as a prophet is greater than anyone, Tiresias says about Oedipus' parents. Hearing this, Oedipus is surprised because he was brought up in a city which was very far away, that is city of Corinth. And so he asks Tiresias how he knows his parents, but Tiresias refuses to answer. But before going, he gives another riddle and he goes. He says that Oedipus will definitely come to know about the murder of Laius, and this murderer will be both father and brother of his own children, and he will also be the son of his own wife. Now Oedipus is totally confused because no one can be the father and brother of any particular child, and at the same time no one can be the son of his own mother. Son of his own wife. So it is totally confusing, and Oedipus starts wondering what is this, and so he gets angry and he starts entering into an argument with Creon, and both of them are shouting at each other. At that time, Oedipus' wife Jocasta, that is the widow of King Laius, she comes there, and she finds her brother and her husband arguing with each other, and she asks why they are shouting at one another. For that, Oedipus explains to Jocasta that the prophet has charged him with Laius' murder, and for that Jocasta says, don't listen to any prophecies because all that is false. And to prove that prophecies are false, she says that at one time the Delphic oracle told to Laius that he would be murdered by his own son. So Laius ordered his son to be killed, and what happened is Jocasta tied the ankles of the child and she gave it to a shepherd, to throw it in the mountain. But actually what happened is Laius was murdered by a band of thieves and not by their son. So when she is saying this, what happens is Oedipus finds something very similar and familiar to him, and he asks her where Laius was actually murdered, and Jocasta tells him that Laius was killed at a three-way crossroad, and this happened just before Oedipus arrived to Thebes. Hearing this, Oedipus is stunned and he says that maybe he was the murderer of Laius. And he tells to Jocasta that long ago, when he was the prince of Corinth, once in a banquet, someone told to another person, he overheard that he was not the real son of the king and the queen. And this provoked him, and he went to the oracle of Delphi to know what is the truth. But what happened is the oracle of Delphi told him that he would murder his father and sleep with his mother. Hearing this, in order to avoid it, he did not want to go back to his house. Instead of that, he took the way to Thebes. And on the way, he was harassed by a group of travelers, and so he had to kill them in his self-defense. But he knows that one person escaped from there. And actually, this place is the very place where Laius was also killed. In order to clear his doubt, Oedipus sends a messenger to find the person who survived the attack. Actually, that person is a shepherd, so that he will find out the truth and he will clear his doubt whether he is the murderer of Laius or not. At the same time, outside the palace, a messenger comes from Corinth, and he meets Jocasta and tells her that Oedipus' father, Polybius, is dead. And he has come to tell Oedipus to come to Corinth to rule the place. Hearing this, Jocasta is very happy because Polybius died a natural death, and so the prophecy has been proved false. That Oedipus will kill his father, will murder his father, has become false. Hearing the noise, Oedipus comes out and he also hears the news. Though he is sad that his father is dead, he is very happy that he is not the murderer of his father. And he also agrees with the queen that prophecies are worthless. But even then, he is afraid to go to Corinth because the other part of the prophecy is still there, that he will sleep with his mother. Hearing him express this fear, the messenger who comes there with that message of Polybius' death, he says that Oedipus need not worry about it because Polybius and his wife Merope are actually not Oedipus' biological parents. And how he knows that is, he says that I know this very well because I was the person who handed over you as an orphan to the king and the queen. And when Oedipus asks him to tell more details about it, he says long ago when he was tending his ship, another shepherd came to him, and that shepherd was carrying a baby, and the ankles of the baby were pinned together. And when he asked him the details about that baby, that shepherd said that he got it from another person, from his master, and he had brought him here. And he gave that baby to this messenger, and this messenger took it to the royal family of Corinth because they did not have any child. They took this child and raised him as their own child, and they named him as Oedipus. Now Oedipus asks the messenger who the other shepherd was, and the messenger says that that shepherd was the servant of Laius. Now Oedipus asks the messenger whether he can bring the other shepherd to him. Now Jocasta, when she was hearing all this, she begins to understand the truth, and she begs her husband not to seek more information, and she runs back crying into the palace. Now the other shepherd is brought, and Oedipus asks him who gave him the baby, which he gave it to the messenger. And the shepherd says that the baby was from the house of Laius, and in fact it was a child of Laius, and it was Jocasta who tied the ankles of the child and gave it to him and ordered him to kill it, because it was promised that the child would kill his parents. But the shepherd did not want to kill the child, and so he gave it to this other shepherd in Corinth. Now Oedipus comes to know who he actually is and who his parents are, and he starts screaming and he runs into the palace. There he finds that Jocasta has hanged herself in shame, and Oedipus, finding her dead, pulls out 2 long pins from her robe and he stabs his own eyes for what he has done. And finally Oedipus emerges from the palace bleeding and begging to be exiled, and he asks Creon to send him away from Thebes, and he asks him to take care of his daughters Antigone and Ismene. And Creon, who wanted to have the royal power in his hands, is only too happy to oblige, and this play ends here. This is a summary of this play. It's one of the most successful plays in Greek, and it has been translated in almost all the languages. This is the tragedy at those times which was enjoyed by many people. And if you have anything more to add on to this, please do write it in the comment box. It will be useful to others. Like the video, share with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe. Thank you.